Oh boy, the time has come. The mid-game climax, chapter 17 of my Fire Emblem Engage LTC. We've got a huge map with tons of fire restricting where we can go, and 6 bosses with 2 health bars each, all scattered across the map. It's difficult enough just to reach and quickly take out each boss, but in LTC, we also need to find a way to get the top left bosses to come to us in order to reach them as soon as possible. In older LTCs, you may have seen a covert Astra Storm being used to aggro the worm, which will then aggro the bosses. Here we just send Ivy straight into its range while chipping down Marnie. Marnie in this map is really annoying thanks to holdout, and at this point we don't have too many engage attacks that can feasibly one-round her to bypass that. The only one that could potentially do it is Citrine's Astra Storm, but the benchmark is so high and I didn't rig enough early expert books to inherit Momentum and Magic +2. So I don't even have that as an option. So unfortunately, this kill won't be anywhere as flashy as the previous chapter. The other annoying thing about Marnie is that she has Blazing Lion, so you can't even damage her on enemy phase, while she'll do massive damage to Ivy thanks to Roy's Wormslayer while creating more flames, restricting our grounded units even further. Thus, we use Corrin's Dreadful Aura to freeze her in place and delay the next health bar until the next turn. Amber will once again take advantage of his early access to Canter to reach positions other units normally wouldn't be able to, and in this case, he can chip down the Berserker while moving off of the square that Hortensia will later need to occupy. He ends up getting a crit, which isn't necessary, as Kagetsu would have finished him off without it. In fairness, Kagetsu did ask for strong foes, so it's only right we reserve him for the most challenging enemies. The last thing we do is have Hortensia rescue Alear forward to bondage shield for Ivy and Pandreo. For this bondage shield setup, Pandreo makes an excellent carrier of Byleth, as not only does he have access to Rewarp to actually reach this position, but his personal skill alongside the Lucina engraved Levin sword and the 5 avoid from Alear support lets him stack enough avoid to not be targeted, allowing Ivy to clear out these generals. Back at the start, we show a sneak peek of the secret 14th emblem, Emblem Panette, whose signature engage weapon, Silver Great Axe, allows her to one-shot enemies on the counterattack. A modest showing, but there will be more to come. Ivy gets a Grasping Void proc against his High Priest, which isn't necessary, as I'd otherwise have Kagetsu finish her off on the next turn. Another kill stolen from him, but again, we gotta save him for only the strongest of foes. Now we move on to Mavier, who is unfortunately the first of many unreliable boss kills. Alear first moves into bondage shield position as we do need his personal skill, and the +3 crit is certainly appreciated. Ivy's Sigurd Engrave has been swapped out for the Lin Engrave, as we unfortunately will have to do a lot of crit fishing. Thankfully, Ivy gets this one on the first try. After Amber's chip on the Berserker, using the Eirika Killer Axe for the accuracy rather than the crit, Citrine and Marin will finish it off. Ignore that longbow shot, I got greedy with Marin's positioning for more potential RN burns on the next turn. Next, we'll have Pandreo chip Marnie down out of holdout range. In order to get enough damage for this, I actually had to inherit gentility onto him, as a +4 Levin sword was too much to ask for, and I didn't want to rig a dual assist proc. In the end, it doesn't end up mattering as he decides to land the 2% crit. Amber can now finish her off with the Tomahawk, and once again, thanks to his access to Canter, he's able to then move into Bondage Shield. This allows me to keep Seadall in a much safer position than if he didn't have Canter. We now boost Kagetsu forward with 2 repositions so that he can swap Amber to the Killer Axe to prevent him from getting doubled. If the High Priest was still alive, he'd finish her off with a Hand Axe here. He isn't able to get into the bondage shield, but as some may have noticed when using Lucina, Sometimes enemies just don't go for who you want them to, as they see higher expected damage on someone else who you may not have wanted to be the one getting attacked. Here we take advantage of that, as all our other units are much more tempting targets, so Kagetsu will never be attacked. After Vander places an obstruct to prevent the Royal Knight from reaching Seadall, we enter a truly awful enemy phase. After hexing Mavier, Ivy thankfully is able to double him, but we still need her to get either a Grasping Void proc or a crit, which isn't that bad, but unfortunately that isn't the only unreliable part of this enemy phase. She doesn't get it on this attempt, so there's a rewind. I actually struggled to find a proper place to change the RNs, so you might want to skip ahead a bit. My main source of shuffling the RNs here is changing when Elir could potentially proc Dual Assist, as that would cause another RN to be rolled for the chain attack hitting. I don't get it here, but I then see if I can fish for a miss from Marin. After staring at this very amusing image of her holding a giant croissant, I do end up getting the miss, so at this point I'm fairly confident I've gotten different RNs. And sure enough, Amber doesn't get a dual assist proc this time.
You got it!
While there's a massive challenge in reaching the left side bosses quickly, Gris is thankfully eager to rush into the pain, as after seeing Panette start a Great Aether, he warps straight into her range, hoping to get his intestines turned into outtestines. Now we get to the absolute worst part of this clear, Zephyia. Our units happen to be placed just out of range for her to override, so she's thankfully forced to attack Ivy at range with her Levin sword. The problem, however, is that she has Cancer Plus, and can attack from 2 different positions, meaning that there are many potential tiles that she can end up in on the next turn. Only 2 of these are favorable for us. 4 up, 1 left from Ivy, and 3 up, 2 left from Ivy. It would also be nice if Ivy could crit her, but that actually isn't necessary, as an Ivy crit and a Lear all for 1 would be enough for a health bar. In the meantime, all we can do is rewind and hope for the best. Except, we actually find something interesting in this chapter. Normally, when you use the Time Crystal, you'll get the same combat outcomes as you did before. Yet, as we see here, Ivy suddenly gets a crit on Zephyia, which she didn't before. I have no idea why this happens, but I'm certainly not complaining. In fact, I end up trying to see if I can work with this Zephyia position, as I really don't want to lose that crit, but sadly, I'll have to rewind again. On the third rewind, I end up getting the absolute best case scenario. Ivy gets the crit on Zephyia, and she then canters into the position we want her to be in. After Gris kindly brings himself to Bunet, we get another big Great Aether off to take out his first health bar. I can't stress enough how useful it is for Panette to be able to solo Gris and allow all my other units to help with repositions or even just burning our ends. With Zephyia down to her last health bar, Amber can move forward and crit down her second, which with full momentum, he has exactly enough attack to do so. You may have noticed that he got a strength level up during the last enemy phase that would have contributed to this, which he only got due to a couple lucky crits. But if he hadn't gotten that, I would have just moved Alir next to him first. Next, Ivy moves forward to take out this general, so we can get a clear path to Hyacinth. You may be wondering how this would work if I had to use my backup plan if Ivy didn't crit Zephyia and had to attack her this turn. But the only reason this general is on the tile is because the High Priest actually prevented him from moving his full movement. If Ivy hadn't crit Zephyia, the priest would move to a different position to physic her, allowing the generals to move their full movement and the tile would be freed up, eliminating the need for Ivy to take him out. Next, Kagetsu finally gets the strong foes he's been waiting for, taking out the worm with exact damage on his Roy Blade Twin Strike, and after a dance from Seadall, he can use the blade for its intended purpose and smash the general out of the way. Vander boosts Bunet with a drawback, allowing him to then shove Seadall with his high build. This allows Hortensia to once again use her personal skill to warp him into Goddess Dance formation, which thankfully means Marin doesn't have to reposition her forward, and can instead help burn our ends. Alir chooses to not attack here, as once again I need as many opportunities to burn our ends as I can get, and spoiler alert, I will be rewinding to this point. Here I have Alir grab a heal from the convoy, as I do want to proc Canter while leaving a chance open for another RN burn, although we'll see that Canter wasn't actually necessary. I end up making a mistake as I will need Parthia equipped for the chain attack against Hyacinth's second life. Now with Alir personal active and full momentum, Amber has just enough attack to crit Hyacinth without needing the chain attack, which actually ends up mattering as Alir does miss. Or not, as we are forced to rewind again. On Hyacinth's second health bar, he gets access to the Light Brand, which unfortunately means that he now benefits from Arm Shield against the Killer Axe. He's so bulky now that we need Kagetsu to use the full power of Eirika and Ephraim, alongside all of Alear Personal, Spur Attack from Amber holding Alfonse, and Lucina's Chain Attack to exactly reach the attack threshold for the crit kill. Hyacinth then kindly drops 3,000 gold, which in honor of him we'll use to donate right back to Elusia. That just leaves us with Vale, who Ivy will once again need a crit for, thankfully getting a small boost from Kagetsu's support. With Dreadful Aura, Vale will then be unable to use Lodestar Rush, forcing her to attack Ivy with her Heavy Tome, allowing Ivy to double her after Hex on the upcoming enemy phase. While Ivy is now able to double, she still needs at least one of a Grasping Void proc or a crit, unless Vale crits her with her Divine Speed attack, as that will give her enough healing to tank Grasping Void, forcing a crit. I get a mini heart attack as this actually ends up happening, but Ivy clutches it out and gets the crit, clearing Chapter 17 in 3 turns.